our next topic is basically a roadmap. So I know Linda had to drop off. She had another thing to go to, but Lisa and Brett, I think, who's going to drive? One of you guys can take over.
Oh, I thought Linda was doing the front edge of this presentation. Here she is.
Oh,
okay, good.
Yeah.
You're here?
So I will kick us off. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Can I move my slide? Who's showing? That's you, John. I'm going to put my slides back up. Yeah, let me put my slides back up. Hey, what's going on?
And while she's putting it up, if you haven't played Heads Up on your phone, that's a game of fun for all ages.
It is fun, especially if you do Disney as the category.
Well, and I thought it would be just for little kids, but so I'm starting us off today. You remember a few months ago, everybody, well, I guess it's been a half a year almost, in September, everybody got the Re-Envisioning email from HL7. And they went through several core principles that, if you will go to the next slide, Lisa, we'll talk a little bit about. I think the real challenge was that people were worried about the comment they made that fire was their focus, and they were just going to work on it. All of us, it sounded like maintenance mode around CDA. And so this year we were able to talk to them a little bit more, the management group, about what that really meant. And in the process, we were able to find out that they really do intend for the CDA standard to continue and be used as the R2 and for the C-CDA and for many other processes that are being built right now on the CDA R2. So if you go to the next slide, Lisa, one of the things we pointed out to Wayne and the people at HL7 were that there was a lot of work that was still of great importance, and that they agreed with us was needed to be supported. That includes the International Patient Summary that uses the CDA format. Obviously, there's other things. If you've kept up with your emails for CMG or on Zulip, you will see that the new C-CDA online navigation tool, a new way. Someone mentioned this morning the challenges around navigating the companion guide and the standard. And Brett's going to talk a little bit more about this, but it's an awesome tool that allows for that. There's also the update to the value set that happens annually and will happen again this year. And then the initiative around publishing the CDA as on the web so that it will look very much like the fire standard. And that is more of the long-term solution. So we sent this to HL7, and on the next slide, we got back this response that you at the C-CDA or the first IAT or the first to see, we're going to be posting it as an announcement tomorrow, but we wanted you to see it first. And this says basically what we set up above, that the HL7 remains committed to the CDA R2.0 and the activities around it, even as we converge on using FIRE. So the management group is listed the IPS as important and the pharmacy templates and the additional work that's being done around making our tooling more useful for the C-CDA 2.1. And as we move forward, there's going to be additional decisions, and some Lisa's going to talk about a little bit later in this presentation around what we do with CDA R2.1. And so as I like to tell a lot of people, I remember DD specifically, I don't want anyone to think that the news of the CDA demise is much exaggerated. That's what I want everybody to think, kind of the Mark Twain quote, right? It's out there, it's being used many every day, and HL7 recognizes that and supports it as we go forward. And with that, Brett's going to tell us about the three-stream approach to moving forward with the CDA work.
Thanks, Linda. Hello, everyone. Turn my camera on for a minute here. We've had lots of discussion on how to move C-CDA forward, and it's a huge, it's a large spec at this point, 1,000+ page PDF, and there's been a lot of movement within HL7 to try to have a common framework for publication of guides, not just C-CDA, but FIRE and version 2. And so an effort was launched a few years back to build that platform. And of course, FIRE IG Publisher, been using for 5 years. Version 2 has a deployment on there. And so there's a group that's been working to port the CDA base model and C-CDA on that. And we've seen some pilot work for folks who've been tracking. It's a nice web view, kind of provides a computable definition of the CDA artifacts. Looking forward to a publication later this year of C-CDA on that platform. But that's one kind of huge piece of work, and we didn't want that huge piece of work to stop other tracks. And so we developed these 2 other streams. And so the Explorers, we consider that new platform work. Stream 2 is let's prepare for the new platform. So a few of us have been meeting on the side, Russ Ott, of course, Lisa, Gay, Dolan, and myself, to prepare for that platform. And so the DS2 comments that were on the, or STU comments on the STU comments page at HL7 have been migrated to JIRA. And we were actively working to resolve those. You'll notice if you pull it up today, many of them are in kind of a unresolved state. So the migration, for folks who've done data migration before, data migration didn't go to 100% smoothly. So we have comments that are marked unresolved, even though they've been resolved. And so there's a handful of folks kind of doing a cleanup effort to get them the right status. And so I'd say they'd be done in March, but it's definitely been a little bit more time consuming, I think, for the folks doing it. And so I'll say April, that'll be fully cleaned up. But in terms of resolution planning, proposals developed, I think the target for that is, end of May to kind of prepare for that new platform. And the kind of stream 3 grew out of do we really want to wait 6 months for a new view into C-CDA? And John Damore saying, hey, I think I can do something quick that would really help folks. And so John did some work, and that's where the alternate navigation tool came up, C-CDA on the web, which is a screenshot of it, and hopefully folks have seen. So on the next slide, you'll see kind of how this lays out in a timeline. So stream 1 on that timeline slide, it really kicked off before January 2021, but it's, the issue resolution is about kind of publisher technical type issues in terms of getting the port complete. The goal was publication in April. It may shift to May, but the idea is once that's published, there's gonna be a period of ongoing kind of user interface improvements. Right now, they're focused on getting the FIRE publishing build to work to build the structured definition, kind of this underlying technical artifact, and the UI piece of it is a secondary. And so we hope to do some of that this summer, that improvement. Once it's successful, that's where we'll migrate to. That's the plan. You can see the prepare for new platform stream kind of ongoing throughout that, with the idea we apply errata later this summer and in the fall, with the idea that we're all kind of merging onto that new platform in the fall. And at the very bottom, we talk about this alternate navigation tool having an end of life. We thought it would be a 6, maybe 8 month lifespan. It may live longer depending on how well stream 1 goes. We've definitely, when we wrote this plan, I think it was November, December, we developed it. There's been some bumps in the road on the new platform, as with any new platform. And so, if that takes longer, we may have that alternate navigation tool longer, but we'll make a decision as we go within structured documents. If you were to step back and look away from the streams for a minute, the vision here is we ballot C-CDA every January, and we ballot it with the updates of US CDI version star plus, wherever we are, +1. So right now we're on version 1. ONC's agreed, or currently is communicated, they'll finalize version 2 this summer, and that we do design this fall and ultimately ballot that design in the December, January timeframe. And that'd be a cycle we would repeat over and over. And on the next slide, you'll see just a screenshot of the, JIRA dashboard. Yeah. So if you want to track along with the issues that we're working to resolve, you'll see there, folks have logged over 314 over the years. These aren't valid comments. These are just STU kind of comments folks who've done implementation work or played with the standard have reported. And so we're working through those right now. You do have to log in to see this dashboard. So if you click this link and say, I can't get in, make sure you have a JIRA account HL7. It's free for anyone. And that will take you there. And then I think the next slide might be the screenshot of the new Web IG Pilot. And so for folks who've been working in Fire IGs, you can see this has a similar look and feel to the Fire IGs, but underneath it will have the C-CDA document types. And there's currently a pilot in there with CCD, and the Lantana team has been contracted, working closely with Graham, the Fire Product Director, to make the migration possible. So I'll pause there. I don't know, Lisa, if you want to jump in, or we should pause and take questions on this section before going forward.
Yeah, I think it probably makes sense. I guess the value set update is the only other. No, we didn't put a sub slide on the value set update that's going on. I'm interested in hearing about change and what it means to our implementers. You know, consolidated CDA in reality was last balloted in 2015. I know it seems crazy, but that's how long it's been. We've done 6 technical errata since that time to handle the bare bones minimal amount of technical corrections that we had to produce, but there has really been a long period of time of use and experience gaining and adjustment without being able to effectively update the spec itself. And now with the pressure and the push from ONC to be regularly raising the bar on what the common data elements will be in US CDI and responding to that, we need consolidated CDA to move at a quicker pace and to be able to make change more rapidly. And so that really is a story about what does this mean to implementers if consolidated CDA is going to be making more significant adjustments on a year-by-year basis. Maybe this gets to the question that Nance asked earlier. What's the connection between US CDI and consolidated CDA? We are now going to be able to, with this new tooling, to be more responsive and more proactive about adjusting templates, making changes to this, what's been largely stable standard. It's about to start changing on, as Brett said, an annual basis. So what does that look like for implementers, and what are you guys doing to get ready for this kind of progress?
This is Dee Dee. I applaud this effort because this is something I've needed for some time for testing, because we need good, clean specifications and so forth. And we continue to, provide input and not either errata or some sort of defects like that, or value set improvements, things like that. So I applaud this effort, and I do think that you're going to see some improvements across the board. And if you make it easy, then it's just going to make us be able to propel the industry, to your point, a little bit quicker.
How do we get the message out so that folks will know? I know we've got, Nance, you're involved with Chic. Dee, you're connected to a lot of the organizations that are in the Commonwealth Care Quality.
Yeah, we'll be.
How do we get the message out?
Well, I can, at least from wearing the Sequoia Project hat, I can say that we can introduce this as part of our work. I can work with Joe Lammy. As you know, the Data Usability Work Group is going to start in April drafting implementation guidance for communities like Commonwealth, like Care Quality, like eHealth Exchange, like Chic, or others that could be adopted. But we don't want to be a standards group. We just want to convene the people, because we have the members that are users that we can bring to the table. So that's where we could help. But we definitely would applaud, if HL7 can maintain good specs and so forth, they can see the fruits of their labor, because I'm hoping that some of the IG components or artifacts that are developed for the 3 use cases: provider to provider, provider to public health, and healthcare entity to consumer, can then be something that's, if it's something that we can just point to that exists in a standard or companion guide or rubric or something, we're going to do that. So we're going to pull together the breadcrumbs, but then we will also maybe provide additional guidance where how you meet, like you mentioned earlier, the document itself along with the payload or with the transaction, the message for transport. So things like that we can add on that may or may not be just HL7. It may be IAT stuff as well. So we hope to provide feedbacks to SDOs like IAT and HL7. But I can commit to doing that, working with Joe. We could have specific topics that we bring it up with the work group members. We don't have the cadence and all those things fully defined yet, but I would be happy to work with Joe Lamy and as our contracted staff to help at least raise awareness within the communities I work with, which include both the Sequoia, Care Quality, eHealth Exchange groups at this point.
Excellent. And that annual cycle, yeah. Say that again.
I said, and of course, Commonwealth has been participating very well under Care Quality, so that grabs them as well.
Okay. The idea of an annual cycle, I remember maybe 3 years ago coming to this group to ask about how frequently could value sets be changing and what's the right cadence for implementers and their development cycles. And annual was the answer, and we've been working now for 3 years to produce a regular value set update. Is an annual update cycle something that you can get into your development streams and predictably be able to plan energy and attention on this? Is that something? I know we've got Cerner, we've got Allscripts, we've got a few EHRs on the phone to get synchronized around regular updates for C-CDA templates.
Lisa, I feel like the scope is maybe a little too loosely defined here to really be able to answer that. I mean, you scoped it initially with value sets, and then you talk about templates. Templates feels bigger to me than value sets. And I'd say my knee-jerk reaction is that regulatory is going to drive the focus. So, if there's regulation coming out that indicates new data needs to flow, that's where the focus is going to be. It would be my prediction, right? And maybe that goes hand in hand with what you're saying, but I struggle a little bit to say, yeah, annual is the right cadence and we'll be able to keep up when I don't have a great grasp on what scope you're talking about of change annually. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Brett, can you comment on the bigger vision of orchestrating? Maybe I'll go back to this. This is a first time through, but when you were on this slide, you talked about what would eventually become more of an annual cycle. Can you describe how you envision that being synced up with US CDI's annual cycle?
Yeah, I mean, this roadmap definitely is focused on kind of publication format, but to kind of jump out of this for a minute, US CDI, ONC is going to do new updates of US CDI every summer, draft in January, publication in summer. May change, but that's their plan. And so if they're going to publish a new set of data elements that are required in the summer, we have a choice. We can respond, as a standards community, we can respond and agree in a standard way to support those, which the current proposal is we want to do that. And that 6 months is about the right time for us to do that and prepare for a ballot. And then we have that design available to everyone. I think the scope of what we allow in those C-CDA ballots is a fair question, David. And I think, I don't know if we go into kind of a fix cycle where we're willing to make, errata fixes, narrative fixes plus whatever the new US CDI design is, or how to scope that appropriately. But I would, my reaction is if ONC is going to release new data elements every year, it's important for us to do a new release every year.
Yeah, I agree. I just couldn't tell, and maybe I should have connected those dots on my own. But Lisa, for whatever reason, when you described that annual cadence, it wasn't clear to me, how well aligned that was with what the ONC's changing every year, and those two things. Sorry, go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, no, David, that's good. I mean, and I should also add, like, ONC doing new US CDI updates doesn't immediately make those required, right? There's the SVAT process, so people can choose to adopt the new piece. But the reason for us to kind of do some of that design iteratively each year is for folks who do want to jump ahead if things are SVAT, they can, and also to prepare for future regulations when a new regulation could wholesale adopt the new version of US CDI and require that. So it's a tricky thing, though. I mean, as just listening to you talk, David, one of the things that went through my mind is we haven't taken any pieces of C-CDA normative, and if I could like put the publication, wrote kind of the craziness of how we do publication aside right now, I would love to take a dozen templates normative and freeze them, because we haven't made a lot of changes to them in the last 5 years, and I don't think we need to make a lot of them, and we could then kind of bronze them and say we're good to go and then focus on the new stuff. But